So my name is Lindsay Miranda. I'm the co-founder of Get It Done Gals, and I'm here with you today with Alisha Ochoa. Did I say it right?
Ochoa, you were so close.
I'm so close. From Boss Babes Brunch Club, and I am so excited, you guys, to be here with this Get It Done Gal today. She is such a phenomenal woman and has really created such a strong sense of community in the San Diego community. I am so impressed. And I actually found her through some Instagram stalking, which is so funny how everything works out, right?
Well, and isn't that how it always works? That's actually how I found my business partner initially.
Really?
Yeah, we met through Instagram. I have a lot of friends who I've met through Instagram. That's the power of social media.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that. And that's totally how I found you. And I was just so impressed with what you were doing and the community you were creating. I knew right away, like, I have to go check out one of these events. And when I chatted on with the phone with you and we talked more about what you were up to, and I heard more about your background and, you know, community and like actually studying it in school and like really that being like your strength and love and passion, I was just super pumped to hang with you. And your event that I went to, I've gone to multiple events and they've just been fabulous. You've drawn together an amazing community. And so I'm super excited to have you here.
Thank you.
Share with our community more about, you know, how did she do it and what more about your business. So why don't we start with giving me a background, share more about yourself, how you started Boss Babes Brunch Club, and just more about, you know, the how you went from kind of where you were before to actually making it come to life.
Okay, cool. So as a little bit of background on myself, I was born and raised in Southern California, and I've never really left this area simply because I've fallen in love with it and wanted to stay here so badly, right? Like if I can walk to the ocean, that is my goal pretty much every day. But I went to school at Cal State San Marcos. I studied women's studies and I had a double minor in art and dance. And through women's studies, I was really able to focus on different ways that people can learn and teach and dialogue and engage with each other, so that way they can feel confident in their space and can build a sense of community and safety amongst one another. At the same time, while building equality and equity and just kind of being all around good people and making change, like positive change for those around them and for themselves. And that was kind of where it all really started for me, I would say. I've always been a go-getter and a hustler and an overachiever type of student. And I've always been like the volunteer after school type or be in X amount of extracurricular activities. And I think that the main reason behind that is because I'm an extrovert to the max. I thrive off of the energy that other people give me. And while I do need some downtime, I'm best when I'm surrounded by my friends and by the people that I care about. And so in school at Cal State San Marcos, I had an opportunity to collaborate and co-teach with one of my mentors. And so I was able to co-teach a bunch of different college level classes with her when I was still an undergraduate myself, which was at the time pretty unheard of. It was fantastic. Through that, we were able to explore all different types of pedagogy and learning styles and teaching styles to figure out what would work best to create community. And that's what really got me triggered and what really started to drive my passion. And then after college, shortly thereafter, I was planning on going to Berkeley into their PhD program, and I had some medical issues come up and a lot of other kind of like life complications that people don't warn you about in your 20s. They'll always be like, oh yeah, your 20s are hard, but I don't think that you ever get the full extent of why or how or like how you're going to handle all that. Based on the look on your face, I feel like you might be able to relate.
100%.
Yeah. And so I didn't end up going to this PhD program, which I had like fallen in love with. And I was working in a restaurant. I worked there for 6 years. And in that time, I built this amazing group of regulars and people that I learned to connect with and care about. And I remember after college, I was like, I have a college degree. I know I'm a smart woman. I know that I'm not reaching my capacity. and I'm not reaching my potential. Like, this is so disappointing. Like, what am I doing wrong? I see my friends out there getting their master's degree and like thriving in their industries and their careers. And like, I know I have the potential to do that, but I feel like I'm about 20 steps behind. So how am I going to make that transition? Especially going from the service industry, like you make a pretty solid living and you have cash in your hand at all times, to going to essentially whatever type of career field, you're going to be entry level.
Right.
And so that was another thing that was always holding me back. So like one of the things was the finances. And then the other thing was the lack of community that I was going to have. I was like, I never want to be in an office where I don't talk to people, or that I'm not engaging with people that I care about. Like, I see these people every day for 6 years. Like, this is what I love. This is what I want to create more of. And so, during that time, I got my yoga teacher training, my certificate to teach, and I started blogging, I started selling art, and I was just kind of pursuing all these different passions. And while I loved them and they really helped with my self-care and with finding a balance in my life, I knew there was always something holding me back, and there was like always a reason why it wasn't succeeding. And I think that the main reason behind it was because although I knew that it was really powerful for me, it wasn't necessarily what I wanted to share with others.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so like, I was like, I know that this is good for me right now, but do I have the capacity to create this same change in the world through these pathways and through these choices, or is that kind of not the right fit? And so over time, I met more women. I moved to Lucadia, and I kept realizing that I had all these amazing women in my life, and they were all starting to explore their own passion projects or start their own businesses. And they were not able to get the connections or the collaborations that they needed, simply because they didn't know enough people. And being the extrovert to the max to the A that I am, I know a lot of people. And so I remember being like, wait, you need a photographer? Like, why didn't you ask Emily? Like, also, by the way, hi, Emily. She's on here, yeah. Or I was like, oh, you need X, Y, and Z. Like, why didn't you ask this woman? You need a social media manager. Why didn't you talk to Amanda? And then I realized that it was because I didn't introduce my friends to each other. And I love group networking, but I also love one-on-one engagement. And so when I wasn't connecting my friends, then I realized that it was actually hurting them, and it was actually hindering their success. And that's not what I'm about by any means. And so I decided to kind of explore this idea. I remember sitting in a coffee shop one day, and I was like, I need to start the Boss Babes Brunch Club. And it came to me like that. I was like sitting at Ironsmith, and it wasn't like, oh, I want to start this idea about women who get together. I was like, no, I want to start a networking group called the Boss Babes Brunch Club. At the time, I was like, we are going to meet 4 times a year, so it doesn't take over my life. And that's not the case anymore, by the way. And
like, I see a lot more events than 4 times a year.
Right. Try like for a month.
Yep.
And I was like, but it's going to be called the Boss Babes Brunch Club. It's going to be for all my girlfriends who are looking for networking and looking for collaboration. Because when you get together and you create authentic relationships and friendships, like, we can support each other and we can help each other and we can encourage each other to thrive. And so that was the start of it. I was still trying to get out of the restaurant industry. I applied for a job, which ended up not being the right fit, but within that job application, I was able to build out this business idea. They said, create a fictional event for us. And I was like, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to see what this looks like. And when I found out I didn't get the job, I realized it was really a blessing for me, because it allowed me to take this on my own and start exploring and start going with it. And so then my business partner, Brandy, who I previously mentioned, we met on Instagram. She used to run something called the Yogi Brunch Club. And so I was sitting in that same coffee shop, and I was writing her an email. I was like, yo, girl, can you tell me about how to run these brunches that you're doing? Like, what are the details? What does that look like? I have a similar idea. and I want to talk to you about it. And as I was writing that email to her, she walked in the door.
Oh my
and I was like,
gosh.
okay, how synchronistic. We need to be friends, and you need to listen to this idea. So we talked for about 20 minutes to a half an hour. Her mom was in the car the whole time and wondering what was taking her so long. And we were just completely on the same page and very excited about the potential for it. And she definitely wanted to help. So we did a dry run at my house that was potluck style. And then we had our first event on, I think it was August 14th, 2016 at Kit and Ace. We had Julie Ellis Reyes from Reyes Case as our keynote speaker, and it has just blossomed from there.
That's amazing. I love that. I love how everything just sort of lined up, right? It was like, you know, you had, and one thing I think that's super important too is you took time to explore your passions and you didn't try to make those businesses. Like you just kind of, they were businesses, but you weren't like, you were doing.
They were like business-ish.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of selling art. I'm kind of doing yoga.
Yeah, totally. Because it allows you that space to get into that creative zone from which something greater often arises.
Exactly. And I've always been a very, very creative person. Like I said, my minors in college were art and dance. Like those will definitely land you solid careers, right? Like minor in business, nah, sorry, Dad. All my art and dance. But because of all of that, it allowed me to kind of find my niche and find what I'm passionate about, what I'm good at, and how I can include those in a lifestyle that fulfills me.
Yeah.
You know?
I love that. I absolutely love that. By the way, you got lots of fans on here, girl. You got Emily, Ashley, multiple Emily's.
Oh, I have a lot of Emily's in my life.
Yeah. I love that. Well, so here I'm really interested. So you decide to start this in August. And I think by the time I came to one of your events, which I want to say was maybe January. No, maybe before that.
That was December 4th.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have a really good memory. You're right. December 4th. Okay. So August, September, October, November, December. Okay. So you're 5 months into the business. And at this point, I would say most of our clients or just people in our community raise their hand and they're like, oh my God, I'm really struggling to get people in the door. I'm struggling to grow this community. And you were able to take it from this idea, concept, to when I got there on December 4th, there was like 50 women there. And that's a good amount of women to, you know, come in and do an event and, you know, when you're starting a company. So I'd love to hear like how you were able to grow it. Like what resources was it? You know, your friend network was a combination. Like, did you use social media marketing? Just kind of walk us through that path because a lot of people are struggling on how do I do something like this?
So I think that there are a couple of really, really key components to the success behind Boss Babes Brunch Club. One of the first ones is that before really launching anything is like we kind of put the vibe and the idea out there, but we built a website. And the reason why this is so important is because once you do have an established presence on social media or online, you want to be able to show people where to go and show people that you're serious about what you're talking about. So at our dry run event, we had our girl Emily Ream and Kim Jeffrey. Hi girls. They took a bunch of photos for us. They're both super talented photographers, and that gave us the material and the assets in order to build out a website. And there are a lot of tools that you can use these days that are pretty intuitive when it comes to building your own website. I have a bit of a background in that, but it's not super extensive by any means. And so just kind of going for it and just saying yes and fully committing to that idea. Like, if I don't take myself seriously and I don't take this business idea seriously, then why will other people? And why should I expect them to? So fully committing to a website. Within the website, ask yourself questions. Like when you go to a website, what are you looking for? You want to know what they're about. So make sure you have a really solid about us section, like what we're doing, what we're up to, and be authentic and get to know, like let your customers get to know you. So really make sure that you're identifying your brand voice and your brand tone with your writing and keep that consistent. And for me, I like to keep it pretty, like, I think it has character and it's fun and it's not too serious because the way that my brand is, or the way that our brand is, it's not serious all the time. Like my vocabulary is not always appropriate. And sometimes I might quote really ridiculous things or talk about my love and passion of Harry Potter and kittens and how that relates to something that you're involved with, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what brings me character. That's part of my identity.
Yeah.
And so you have to think of how you are creating the identity of your brand and presenting that to your customer.
Love that.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. So it's kind of like when you are creating your brand voice and your brand identity and your brand tone, your website is like your online dating platform.
Yeah.
Like, are people going to swipe right or are they going to swipe left?
Oh my gosh, so many great quotes. Keep going.
And so the only thing that they have to know about it is your website initially, like maybe one conversation or one business card that they saw in a cafe. But your website is it. That's where they are going to buy in, right? That's where they're going to decide if they're interested in finding out more, if they're interested in reaching out and talking to you and establishing a connection and all of that, right? So establish your website, establish your brand voice and your identity, and fully commit to it, and make sure that it's cohesive and consistent the entire time. And so then once you have your website, that is when I would encourage you to go onto social media and start to develop and build your social media presence and stay consistent with that. With Boss Babes Brunch Club, I have been pretty consistent on posting on Instagram almost every day. Some days, weekends, you got to have a little break here and there. But you'll see on our Instagram, we have a very consistent pattern. We do a quote and then an image and then a quote and then an image. So people know what to expect. In our captions, we make sure that we're creating dialogue and asking questions. We're encouraging our customers to think critically. And sometimes there are funny little memes or blurbs on there, but most of the time we're giving them value adds to whatever the image is. So yeah, there might be a cool picture, but they want to engage and read in the caption because they know that they're going to get something out of it. And so you are creating, you're creating questions. You are, I'm forgetting the term right now, but you're encouraging them to do something. So you're creating calls to action for them. Mm-hmm. So it's, even if the call to action is to comment. So what was the best part of your day, right? Tell me all about it in the comment below. Like, you are giving them tasks for them to fulfill, or you're creating conversation and dialogue for them to respond to. Mm. And so once you can get them to start engaging with you and with your brand, then, and they see that like it's a real person behind it. It's mm-hmm. like not a robotic response that you copy and paste all the time, but you're actually responding to them personally and you're responding in a reasonable amount of time. And maybe you're asking them questions back in the comments. Then once you take an interest in them, they will take an interest in you right back, right? That's how friendships work. Like, if we were sitting here and sharing a glass of wine over dinner and I wasn't taking an interest in anything that you were saying to me, why would you want to be my friend?
Yeah.
But it's the same thing on social media.
Yeah.
And I think that people get intimidated by that because you can't see the person's response. You can't talk to them and ask them or read their body language and be like, oh my gosh, did I offend you? Oh my gosh, you thought that was really funny. Oh my gosh, I'm so stoked we're friends now, right?
Yeah.
You just have to engage with them and get that from the comments. And then pretty soon they'll start coming to your events. They'll start asking you questions. When you start asking them questions and then taking them seriously and putting those into action, that's their call to action to you. So for example, a while ago, I asked on our Instagram, what type of events do you want to see? Like, what are you looking to learn? And someone said that they really wanted a marketing workshop. So now this month we're offering a marketing workshop. So we're also taking the feedback and the response that we're getting from our boss babes seriously and putting that into action. And I think that's a really huge part of it as well.
I love that. There's like so many great nuggets in there and so much great content and really just, yeah, it's, it's funny. It's very in line with, what Nicole and I have been talking a lot about lately, Nicole, especially just like you have to be a human being, a person, like people have to see you, like the real you and like showing your work and asking questions and engaging and, really and commenting back, not just like letting the comments flow. Some like weekends or times we miss things, got it. But like overall, one thing that, I think can really make you stand apart in the marketplace right now is to actually just be engaged with your community, like be very present.
And going on kind of that same line is not only in the online space and in the virtual space, but also at our events. Like you have to be authentic and you have to be vulnerable. And sometimes that's really scary. But it is going to bring so much value to the space that you're creating and to the friendships and the network that you're building. And not only necessarily for the connections that I'm making, but it creates a space of vulnerability and authenticity for everyone else to share the same thing. Yeah. So if you lead by example, then actually, let me just give an example of this.
Yeah.
Instead of talking about examples, let me give an example. So for the event that you went to, we for the people who are tuning in, it was a full catered champagne brunch. We had a keynote speaker, we had swag bags. It ended up being a really, really cool event. But the week before, I remember I had our caterer, our keynote speaker, and our location all fall through. And I had about 40 women already pay for this event, expecting a keynote speaker, a location, and catering. And I was sitting in my favorite coffee shop that I do so much work at. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to rip my hair out. I don't know what is happening. I'm pretty sure I dropped an F-bomb in a ridiculously loud tone that was not appropriate at all. And I was like, well, I only have one option, and that option is to succeed. So how am I going to do that? And how can I learn from this? And who do I know? Who can connect me? What is our plan? And so I remember I called up this woman, Libby, who at the time I had known from working in the restaurant industry. I used to serve her lunch for years. And I found her phone number from a friend, and I essentially cold called her, and I was like, hey, Libby, you might not remember me, but I used to serve you lunch. This is what I'm doing. I'm looking for a keynote speaker. Would you have any desire to work with us? And it just ended up being perfect, right? She ended up being the exact speaker that we needed for that. We found a space that was beautiful and light and airy and exactly in alignment with what our values were. The catering was delicious. Like everything ended up working out, but not without a little bit of stress first. And so I remember coming to that event and I was like, well, I could just imagine that everything went smoothly and this is perfect. And I'm so excited to be here. And I got up on stage and I was like, there is no way that I can BS that. So I got up there and I told you all this was the most stressful event that I've ever planned in my life. I am so excited that it's all working out. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being a part of this. And thank you for letting me learn so much from this experience. And because of that, that opened up a door for Libby to be more authentic and vulnerable in her story and her sharing, which she shared that she wasn't previously expecting to do, which then opened up the door for all of our guests to open up and share with each other similar experiences or thoughts or so forth and so on. So it's a ripple effect. It's a domino effect. When you start building relationships of depth rather than of shallow surface level conversations, then that's when you're really going to hit home. And that's when you're going to want people to come back to those conversations and those friendships, whether that they're at our events or not.
I love that. You're so right. And it's amazing to see like the type of, when someone sees someone else doing something, they're far more likely to feel comfortable doing it.
Right.
And it's like that, moment where you decided to just be totally open with everyone that's sitting there, which is hard to do knowing that
Yeah.
you paid for this event and they're coming and like 5 days prior, everything fell through.
Right.
But you're totally right. Like people respect you so much more, and it creates that ripple effect in space. And I absolutely love that. And that's what I felt there. Like everyone was super genuine, really authentic. And I was just like in awe of how did she get so many cool people in a room? And I think that was, that's something that really I kept thinking about. And, you look at that situation, you're like, okay, that has to be the person running it and what they're doing and what they're creating, because it's contagious, right? People want to be around that. Yeah. It's a tribute to what you've created and what you've done. And I guess that brings me to my next question. A lot of people in our community struggle with being their real selves. They struggle, especially with being their real selves online. They struggle with what to post. They struggle with how to write a post. There's so many different combinations of things. And what's happening is, as a result, it's holding them back from doing things like just launching and throwing the event, right?
Right.
So I'd love to hear if you have any top tips for someone, because I know you're a really great writer too, and you're really great at building communities. So the two go beautifully hand in hand. So for someone that may not be like the best at writing social media, or is kind of fretting about what to post on there, what tips or suggestions would you have? Maybe like a top few tips for them.
A couple things. So I should just note that I am a writer by trade. Like I am a copywriter, and I was a blogger for years. So I do have that background, which is helpful for me. But one of the things that I consistently use, no matter if it's a social media post, if it's a blog post, or if it's copyright material, then one thing I always do is I look at what I wrote, and I tend to write pretty lengthy. And then I cut it down. I think, what words are not valuable here? What's just fluff? Yeah, you can still have some character. You can have a little emoji here and there, but what's not adding value to my readers, and what is going to make them disengage? Because if you see a paragraph on social media with no breaks, like, you're not going to read the whole thing, right? But if you do, I do a lot of like top 3 things. Like, so I'll do lists, I'll do bullets, I'll do numbers, I'll do things like that. And if you tell people what to expect with whatever you're delivering to them. So if I say, do you want to know what to write about on social media? Here are 3 top tips that can help you. And so then they'll know tip 1, tip 2, and tip 3, rather than just saying, here are some things that you might want to read or to write on social media, with listing the same exact content, but with no layout or no outline. So I think that outlines are really important and really valuable. Even if you look, like, I have some notes for our conversations here, like, it's all outlined, because that's what I do.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
But they keep you focused, and they keep your writing style refined. And they help guide your readers so they know where the direction is going. So I would definitely say that is a very, very strong strategy that I've implemented that has been really successful for me. I also encourage you to, I talked about this previously, but ask your readers what they want. If you're saying, hey, be vulnerable, be authentic, right? So say, hey, sometimes I get a little bit, my content feels like it's getting a little dry, but I want to make sure this is engaging for you. Tell me 3 things that you want to see.
I love that.
So ask them questions, so that way you can respond to their answers. Hi, Tom. I would also say that if you just be yourself, pretend that you're having a conversation with someone. Pretend that you're asking a question and wanting to know the answer. So then how would you answer it? Right? So social media doesn't have to be a one-way street. Pretend that it's a dialogue.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Those
So
are amazing tips.
I would say, yeah, those would be my top three. It would be making sure that you're doing outlines, and that way your audience knows what to expect and when. I would say to ask them questions so that way you know how to respond to their answers. And then I would say to make sure that it's a dialogue and that it's a two-way street rather than a one-way street.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And just so everyone that's on, we've got a whole crew on here, which is so amazing. And tribute to what we're talking about, community marketing. Alisha has her amazing crew on here. You've gathered your tribe and they're here to support. And I just think that's like such a cool tribute to what you're speaking about, right? It really truly shows that you are authentic to this message because people are following you and coming over and cheering you on.
They're my homies.
They're your homies.
They're all, not guys, all.
Oh my gosh. So that brings me to my next question. So we've talked a lot about creating engaging content, how to kind of, when you're stumped on what to post. You know, another area where a lot of our community gets stumped that I really feel like you can offer support is in terms of how do you transition from, you know, fun posts, you know, your quote posts and everything to, hey, we've got an event and we have 50 seats to fill. How do you make that transition? And, you know, do you change the voice? How do you keep it in a way where it still feels engaging, but you're filling the seats and you're feeling really confident, excited about your events as well?
So there's quite a few strategies. And there's no specific formula. One of the ways is that we do a newsletter. So we encourage people to sign up for our newsletter before they come to events. And then what that does is that gives them the first opportunity to purchase tickets before the general public. So that's kind of like the little incentive. And I also really do, I know what it's like to get 3 newsletters a day from the same people that has, it's not adding any value to my life, right? So I'm trying not to spam you. You'll generally get 1 newsletter a month, and that will tell you the next month's events, right? We'll also throw in some blog articles that we've written or people who are inspiring us, things like that, right? So one of our previous newsletters had a lot of really amazing podcasts that have been definitely filling my ears with good things these days. So the newsletter is key. It also, I feel like with that newsletter and when you receive it, I'm talking essentially directly to you in my tone and in my voice. And so it makes it feel more one-on-one rather than just a big social media blast. I also, within our social media, I still use that same brand voice and same tone as I do in all of my other posts when I'm talking about our events that are coming up. But I also 100% make sure that I include a call to action. And that's really key. So when you have that call to action, you're saying, hey, here's our event. You don't want to miss out. So I'm talking directly to you. You want to make sure that you're there. You want to make sure that you're reserving your spot because we know it's going to sell out. So make sure you get your spot now.
Interesting.
So you're not only giving them a call to action, but you're not only telling them what to do, but you're telling them when to do it. Right? We're implementing both Facebook Live, and we have an active Facebook group. So we have both the Boss Babes Brunch Club Facebook page, but then we have a Boss Babes Brunch Club creative collective. And so that's where those boss babes who have been at our events can jump in and engage with each other online and ask each other questions, and they can help each other. So that way it's not just an in-person conversation, it can be a virtual conversation as well, because sometimes you don't always necessarily get that person's card or that person's phone number that you were willing or wanting to talk to.
Right.
And so maybe you don't remember their name, but you can go ask them, that group, like, hey, are there any lawyers in here? I'm looking for one.
Yeah.
And then maybe they'll respond, and if they don't, maybe someone else will.
Yeah.
And so we're creating that community, that virtual community, which is engaging people to want to come back to our space, to our physical space, so that way they can create that one-on-one connection again. We're doing Instagram stories. And a lot of it's word of mouth. Like, I talk about it because I'm passionate about it. So when someone asks me what I do, I say I run a social networking group for women, and then they can see the passion in my face. And there have been times where I have been really stressed and I didn't take great care of myself. And I could feel that authenticity was being forced and it didn't feel good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like there are certain experiences that, like, if you're not taking care of yourself, then people aren't going to want to engage with you. So by practicing self-care and showing up and being vulnerable and being authentic, then people want to come back to your events and then they tell their friends about it. So in a strange way, getting people to show up to your events has to do with how well you take care of yourself.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
And that is the biggest struggle for me. I can tell you right now, taking time away from all of my responsibilities and away from my X amount of hour work week, like taking time just to meditate and to sit and watch the sunset, or like be alone without friends for 10 minutes a day, that's really, really hard for me. And so that's kind of my biggest struggle.
That makes sense. I love that. And I love how you circle it back to really taking care of yourself, because you said it spot on and it's so true. Like when you're excited about something and you're passionate, somebody can hear it in your voice, as opposed to if we were talking like this right now and you were talking like this, right? Like people would say, oh, they don't seem very, who are those people?
If you're not excited about what you're doing, then why should I be?
Exactly. And it's so spot on. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because it plays in your social media posts. It plays when you're out in public. It plays when you're at an event. If you're walking to a networking event thinking about every stressful situation that you have going on and who are you going to meet, and you need to get 5 clients from this event and all these things,
right?
You're not going to be focused on the person in front of you or having real conversations like you're saying, or actually engaging. Like, why, if we're out drinking wine and I'm not listening to you, would you want to hang out with
me? Right.
You know, you're spot on.
Well, and a part of that too is just being really honest with other people as well. So there have been times where people have been like, hey, Alisha, how are you doing today? And I'll be like, honestly, I'm really stressed out right now. But I can also tell you 3 good things that are happening to me. So by creating not only self-care, but also an environment of gratitude around you, that's also going to help cultivate that that idea of self-value. I love this. There's this theory, it's called the shine theory, and it's if I don't shine, then you don't shine.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Right? Isn't it great? I forget who came up with it, but it certainly wasn't me. My oldest sister initially is the one who introduced me to this theory, and it's a constant reminder for me that I absolutely love. Like, if I don't shine, then you don't shine. So if I don't take care of myself, then you're not going to thrive, because I'm not going to be able to present to you events that will hold value for you.
Yeah.
And when I do present events that you can get the knowledge, the networking, and the necessities that you need in order to be successful in whatever area of your life you're trying to grow, then that's when I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
But I can't provide that to you unless I'm giving myself the care that I need first, unless I'm shining.
I love that. That's amazing. That is definitely going in the quotables in the recap. I'd love to hear any tips that you have in creating your brand voice, especially because there's 2 of you. So how do you create the voice behind the brand? Like, is it from one person, or is it just like, you know, you speak as Boss Babes Brunch Club? Like, how do you kind of create that? Because I think a lot of people struggle with that in our community. It holds them back because they don't know how to like be a brand or what their brand looks like.
So there are a couple ways that you can go about this. One is that, for example, I lead all of the Instagram and Brandy leads all of the Facebook.
Okay.
And you will see that our voices are slightly different on there. But you'll also see that every time there's an Instagram video, it's me. And every time there's a Facebook video, it's Brandy. So you can kind of follow that. And we're really open with our customers about that up front. So if I say, if you need to get in contact with me, or if you comment on Instagram, I'm going to be the one you're talking to. If you are looking to talk to Brandy, go on Facebook, email her. Of course, that's going to work too. But on social media, this is who you're talking to. I do all of the website. So the website management and maintenance and the dialogue on the website, that's all me. And so I have a little bit more control of the brand voice and tone there. But also, like, I'll email Brandy and I'll be like, hey girl, what do you think of this? Like, can you check out this link? Tell me if anything needs to be changed. So it's very much so a partnership in that. But another thing that I've seen, there's a really cool brand called the Social Studio Shop, and they do this sometimes on their Instagram, and I love that, is they'll say, hey everyone, it's Jess, or hey everyone, it's Emily. So they will tell you who you're talking to if multiple people are running that social media account. And I think that's really, really smart, because not only if there's a slight change of the brand voice, is that acceptable, but it also brings back that human behind the screen concept. So you know exactly who you're engaging with.
I love it. So many great tips. I feel like we could talk for hours, but I also know that I can't have you here for hours because you actually have a life beyond this interview. But
I mean, I do need like 10 minutes to myself today.
Yeah.
So,
so we could end at like 11:50, right?
Right.
Oh, well, I want to open this up too to comments below. I know that there's a lot of people on here, a lot of community members. So if there's any questions, I'd love for you to post below, or just a lot of shout outs and love for Alisha, which I know you all have had. So make sure to comment below with any questions that you may have. We want to make sure that we answer them. And I have two final questions for you.
Cool.
First final question is just, you know, what are any challenges? I know we talked earlier about, you know, some, but any challenges you've faced in this business and in this journey now that you're, gosh, almost a full year in?
I know.
Like your one piece of advice you'd give to, you know, business owners that are, you know, starting out or 6 months, a year in?
As far as challenges go, I would say my biggest challenge is that, like, I had never run a business before. So there are a lot of areas of expertise that women ask me about. And I'm like, honestly, I don't know the answer to that. But the way that I overcome that is by connecting them with someone who does.
I love that.
So, for example, I think I reached out to you in regards to like trademark and copyright stuff a while ago, right? When we first met, because I had a woman who she had initially reached out to me. She was looking to publish a book, and she was like, hey, you run Boss Babes Brunch Club. Can you tell me about trademark and copyright law? And I was like, no, nope, can't do that. But I know someone who can. I know someone who might be experienced in that, or who has that expertise. And I would rather you go to them directly rather than come to me and have me give you false information.
Yeah.
So I would say one thing is making sure that you're connecting with your community in the sense that you're giving recommendations, because when you give recommendations to people, they'll give it right back to you. Right? There's space for all of us here. Like, even if there's 5 boutique owners, that doesn't necessarily mean that that sale needs to go to you, because you don't have the product that your customer needs.
Yeah.
So if you create a good community, then everyone will see, like, there's 5 boutiques there that I can go shop at, instead of 1 20 minutes away. So if you create that community of whatever area you're in and that interest, then more people will start to generate interest.
Love
that was not eloquent, but I think you're getting it.
Totally. I'm right there with you.
So don't pretend that you know everything. Don't pretend that you know all the answers if you don't. Another thing is that some people have told me, like, oh, you're really lucky with how successful you've been. And on one hand, I take that as a compliment. Like, thank you. We're very excited with where this has gone and where this is going, and like the potential that it does have. But something that one of our speakers said is that there's no such thing as luck. Luck is when preparedness meets opportunity. And I have held on to that little nugget of information so much, because it's essentially like saying, if you say yes to life and you prepare yourself to say yes, then good things will come your way. Then like you'll be able to take those opportunities that are presented in front of you rather than being scared of them.
Yeah.
And so if you stop making decisions out of fear and start making decisions out of preparedness and opportunity, then that's when good things happen. Yeah. So, okay, getting back to the original question, challenges. One thing I would say is that I don't know everything. And sometimes that can be like, you feel a little dumb. Like you're like, I don't have all the answers for you and I wish that I did. So in order to kind of counterbalance that, I just lead them in the direction of someone who might help them instead, which has in turn helped us build more community. Another thing is when opportunities come your way, make sure that you say yes to them, but only if you're prepared for it, which means that you prepare yourself ahead of time. So you prepare yourself for what could be. And that doesn't necessarily mean spending 6 to 8 hours a day preparing for something that hasn't happened, but just like have that mindset, set yourself up for success. Another challenge that we faced is a lot of the time we have our speakers or our hosts, they volunteer their time or they donate their space, but because they're not always getting paid huge amounts of money, it is more likely that they'll back out. So as we grow, we have bigger budgets, which is really helpful. So we can at least give them some. We're also making sure to make it really clear that like this is also in their value system and these are the reasons why. And it doesn't always have to be financially.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's more in the world than just money. Like money doesn't buy happiness. We know that. So what else doesn't it buy? It doesn't buy strong community. It doesn't buy word of mouth. It doesn't buy X, Y, and Z, right? So making sure that the people that we're working with, it's in their value system as well, and not forcing that. So making sure that they're actually on board with it and they're not feeling pressured. And if it seems like they aren't 100% comfortable with that, I'll ask them. I'll be like, hey, if you're not 100% comfortable with this, I would love to work with you at another time. But I want to make sure that we're all on board and that you are 100% in. And if this isn't that time, that's fine. Like I will find someone else and that's great, but I want to keep you in mind for the future.
Love that.
And in situations like that, I'm a big fan of not burning bridges. Like you never know what someone's going through or what information they received or what their experiences have been. So just always keep the door open for opportunity and change. Another challenge for me is that like I've been learning how to run a business because I never really ran one before, right? And so I had those business-ish things like my yoga and my art, but I never was like fully dedicated and bought in and like, okay, I got to file taxes. Okay, I've got to do this and that. So this is all a really big learning curve. And so, you just have to stay curious and you have to keep learning. And sometimes you have to put the fear aside and being like, well, okay, guess I got to learn about taxes today. That's not fun, but I guess I can do it because it is a measure of our success. It is a measure of our growth. It means like filing taxes isn't a great idea, but it also means that my business has grown enough to file taxes.
Right.
I remember there is a San Diego Small Business Administration, right? And I remember researching them and being like, yeah, but I don't think they're going to have any resources for me. And I'm going to have to go like in the middle of the day and I don't really have time for that. And it's probably really far down in San Diego. And I was just making up all of these excuses in my mind. And I was like, no, that's BS. Why don't you research it and find out? You want to know where it was? A block from me. And so when you just stay curious and keep learning, and like figuring out the answers to your own questions, not only is it really empowering as an individual, but it's going to help your business grow.
I love that. Stay curious and keep learning.
Yeah, like you've got to think critically. You have to be a lifelong learner. I remember another one of our speakers said, like, if I were to tell you that there was a magic genie and he would grant you all the answers to almost anything in the world and you didn't have to give up anything in return, like, would you say you were into that?
Oh,
Like,
I think I was there.
You were there, yeah. And you were like, yeah, of course I would want to hang out with this genie and have him give me all these answers. Yeah, we have laptops and computers and Google and our network. Like, we have the opportunity to find these answers if we ask the right questions to the right people, or Google. Like, maybe Siri might not know all the answers, but someone does.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that. And it's such a like perfect note to end on.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to be able to share with our community, where can we find you and what do you have coming up?
Okay. So you can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on our website. Our website is www.bossbabesbrunchclub.com. I'm
going to type it. Oh, you got it?
Perfect. Got that into the chat for you. And so all of our social media, the handle is Boss Babes Brunch Club. And then as far as all of our events, we have quite a few events coming up and I'm like really excited about all of them. So our first one is on Saturday the 6th, which is this Saturday. It is the Dream Girls film screening, which is a documentary about both women and their daughters and what their dreams are and how to attain them, and kind of what we're teaching our youth about accomplishing our dreams and what it looks like to follow your dreams. So that screening is going to be at the Guild in Cardiff. I was talking to you about this beforehand, but one of my big challenges is like being very A plus, and Brandy is taking control of this event. I'm actually going to be at a wedding. So please go and be there for me, because I wish that I could be. Then the following week on the 11th, Thursday the 11th, we have a Mix and Mingle series. It's Balanced Babe. So it's taking a holistic look at health and wellness. So that means like the whole spectrum. So we're going to have family and relationships, nutrition. We're going to have a life coach, and we are going to have a business owner, and they're all going to speak for about 10 minutes. And then it's just going to be networking after that. So that's Thursday the 11th at 6 p.m. at Choice Juicery in Carlsbad. After that, we have a marketing workshop, which our Boss Babes had requested previously. I'm super pumped. I'm going to be at another wedding, so I won't be at that one either. So Brandy will be taking the lead again. And it's going to be with a woman named Mia Regala. The amount of content that she is giving is absolutely insane. I'm like so pumped for everyone who gets to go. And once again, please be there for me, because I wish that I could be. So that is going to be on May 21st. It is a Sunday. And it is going to be at Union Co-work in Encinitas. It's a Sunday morning. And then in June, we've got two really, really, really exciting things coming up. The first is a 6-week series, and that is going to be called Workshare. So it's going to be dedicated time every week to work on your passion project or side project that you've been putting off in a community of like-minded women who are there to bounce ideas off of, who are there to give you guidance, and we're creating that space for you. So if you have any questions on that, please reach out to me. I'm super pumped on it. Those are all going to be held at Union Co-work in Encinitas as well. And then announcing right now for the first time ever, we are having our first one-day retreat in June as well. It's going to be on June 4th at the Mama Yurt in Vista, which is like this magical sacred space. I went there the other day and I never wanted to leave. There's flowers and llamas walking down the street and everything. And if you sign up today, then we're doing a 24-hour flash sale. So you get $15 off, and the code is Get It Done. And so I just pinged that over to Lindsay, and she will be posting that for you. And all of our events can be found on our website at www.bossbabesbrunchclub.com. marketingco-op.com/event-tickets. Yeah, so we have a lot on our plate coming up, and I'm like pumped. I'm so excited about all of them, and I'm so sad for the ones that I'm missing. Partly because I'm not used to missing them, but partly because like they're going to be really cool and I have FOMO. Like FOMO is real in my life. So yeah, that's what I got for you.
Awesome. So I typed that all in the chat below so everyone could see that. That way I don't forget. So you guys make sure to check them out, bossbabesbrunchclub.com. Here is the event link as well. So you can check out all the amazing events. They're in San Diego, northern San Diego, a lot of them. So fly in. Come visit us out here.
We've had women from, I think they were from Missouri.
Oh
they were
my gosh.
sisters from Missouri who showed up to one of our events, and I was so excited about that. So like, I would like more people from far away to come hang out with us.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being on here. Seriously, there's like so many amazing takeaways, and I'm just so thankful for your time and for taking the time to really share with our community of how you've built this wonderful, amazing community of entrepreneurs and just other fellow gals.
Thank you.
All over, really, not just San Diego. And so there's just so many great tips that I know are going to support a lot of entrepreneurs out there that are struggling to build their community and not sure where to start. And I am just really thankful for your time. And you guys make sure to check out bossbabesbrunchclub.com/event-tickets so you can check out all the fabulous events, and the link is below as well.
Thank you. And I meant to say, if anyone has questions about anything that I've said, feel free to reach out to me via email. You can find my email in the contact form on our website, or I'm the one running the Instagram. So you can DM me or comment on our Instagram, and I will be sure to respond to you.
I love it. I love it. That is so awesome. Thanks for offering that up. That's
yeah,
really,
of course.
really
of course.
Alrighty, well, get it done, gals community. Have a wonderful day out there. And make sure to comment below any questions that come up. Share with your fellow entrepreneurs. This has been a really amazing content-rich training, and I know that so many people would benefit off of this. So make sure to share and tag Boss Babes Brunch Club, of course, to make sure that thanks for being here, and comment below with any questions that you have, and we'll see you at our next How Did She Do It?